resume. All right. So I think there is a part three or day three, whatever you call it. There's a third session of the same discussion on the same subject line, right? The productions use cases. So productions use cases, it's always been a very important things for for uh, for you guys. Even maybe you are very new to AWS, or maybe you are kind of experienced professionals, but these use cases, daily use cases, are very important to enhance your skills and keep you updated, right? Because it is a kind of never ending thing, right? Every single day, somebody, they have a new kind of use cases requirement, right? And based on that, there are different solutions. So what I would suggest that maybe next month onwards, it is not me, I would broadcast also, if if you know something, or if you would like to share something, your story, your learning with team, that would be more important. It can be network, it can be DevOps, it can be cloud, it can be maybe some kind of different, AI, ML, any technology you are familiar with, and you, let's say, came across something very interesting that you would like to share. That is something we have to start in next month. That we'll call it a kind of weekend hour. Okay. But let's stick to this production use case. So today's topic, let's start with the first use case is optimizations. So optimization is very important in cloud. Okay, irrespective of it's AWS or Azure, or GCP, any cloud. Since we are talking about AWS, so let's stick to AWS discussions also only. So that's the first use case. Let me put it on the table. The customer, their environment, their workloads already running, let's say, state data center. Okay, it's a government customer, by the way. And the state data center, they have some kind of applications, and they have the databases. Almost there are 10 to 12 servers running. Okay. But their concern is they have done some kind of calculations at their own, and they find that the cloud cost would be higher than their running on-premise cost. Okay. Let's say they have some kind of servers, some kind of storages, some kind of networks, right? Databases. But the same environment, if they will put on AWS, then they think their expenses will be more than whatever they're spending right now. And it's a very generic problem. I mean, it is something true. Like sometime the cloud cost will be higher than your on-premise environment, but it is not the full story. Okay. So at this situation, what do you think? How can you tackle this customer, or how can you make them understand that yes, cloud cost is not more than your expenses, existing on-premise expenses, something there you need to make them understand. So so this is something, a pre-migration stage, right? There are two kind of migration and optimizations there. One is pre-migration, one is post-migrations. So whatever the use case we are discussing right now, it is pre-migration stage, right? So now over to you guys. What do you think, that what sort of trigger, what sort of discussions you would like to start with customer, that they will understand yes, cloud will be not the more than on-premise cost.
Yeah, actually, a customer is thinking that the cloud has like a little higher cost than on-premises. So first, we have to clarify that and state few examples that cloud is giving. That migrating to a cloud is getting the loss of cost cuttings, and also we have to demonstrate and we have to show few talks or something about the cost like services which they are looking, and we have to compare with their on-premises. So we can remove their doubt of having the higher cost in the cloud. So this is the step we can do in the pre-migration step.
Yeah, I will
One of
take
the steps.
your. Sorry, you were
Mm.
saying. I mean, sorry, you didn't complete.
Yeah. So as a pre-migration step, so this is the one of the step we can make the customer clear on about the costs on AWS services.
I will take this question, but yeah, I'll come back to you, Jagdish, for some time. But that is the right approach, one of the approaches, I would say. Okay, Murugan or Vivek, I can see you unmute yourself. So what's the point?
Yep. So what Jagdish has said, that will be the first point. The second point is like we have to check how the on-premises, what is the workload they have, and
Mm,
majorly the service what they are using it. So we will also from our side, if we are on from AWS, kind of like cloud consultant or something, so we will also show them that what are the charges you will be getting it after using these services, and might be in future that kind of issues you will be having it for the space issues, or might be that the IOPS where whenever kind of any kind of a situation we are getting it like that load is getting increased, so that particular time these are the major factors you have to also look into it, not only for the on premises. You can say that you are saving the cost, but there are some the where you can lack of others issues, so we have to highlight those kinds of issues on the real time scenarios. And also we can tell him that the workload what you guys are using it, like adding to maintain the infrastructure, so we have to talk about that part also, like the you are investing more also on the keeping resources, more resources, so we have to highlight those points also on that point.
nice, sweet. Okay, so Murugan, do you have any other
Uh,
points? Yeah.
Yes, sir. First of all, I'll understand, what, because at the end, cost is the major role, right? So,
Mm,
when it comes to optimization, I'll understand what kind of application database customers are using. So, accordingly, we can plan. So, in AWS end, yeah, we can set up the service timeline in case if customer want 9 to 6, where we can save money, and in case if they are using databases and yeah, there also we can optimize keeping the data with SSDs, or we can use glazes, right? In case if you wanted to optimize or save the cost, in case customer add very big database and they're using very limited data. Uh,
mm.
hard data and cold data we can segregate, with that we can, so whatever the available features like auto scaling, in case if customer is not using much resources,
Mm.
so automatically the resource can be reduced so that there also customer can save the data. So I'll explain customer what are the additional enhancements or features are available at AWS and to save the cost.
I like it. I like it. So, yes, so all of you are absolutely right. I really like it. And I just would like to add a couple of more points to build a very strong message from the cloud perspective. Yes, that would be the potential area that customer can save a lot of money. So definitely these documentations and whatever you have mentioned, you have to explain. That is the right approach. But practically, if I'll exhibit in detail way, let's say in most of the cases, from my experience, customer, they tend to have the same kind of configurations what they have on premise on cloud. For an example, let's say they have servers, or let's say the server capacity is let's say 32 virtual CPU, or maybe 128 GB RAM, for an example, right? It can be also the physical box, maybe IBM or HPS, HP, units, maybe 32 core or 64 GB RAM. But in first you need to, and maybe, the first questions you need to ask that, okay, sir, can you please share your last 30 days utilizations pattern? Because theory is fine, but we need to really prove how technically it can be optimized in a realistic way, right? So this is the first ask you have to to your customer, like your 30 days utilizations pattern. That means, let's say probably they have 32 cores or 64 GB RAM, But in most of the cases, from my experience, I have seen that maybe their CPU utilization is only 15% or RAM utilization only about 30%. That means the additional RAM and CPU they are wasting, right? They don't need that. So having said that, so you can tell customer, if you don't need that much of RAM and CPU, then you should go ahead with your optimum, optimum CPU and RAM right now, because in cloud is a pay-as-you-go model. Anytime you can scale up, right, and scale down. So why are you wasting your money? Because you are really not using that much of CPU and memory, right? You understand my point? So maybe if they are using out of only 15% or 20% CPU utilization out of their 32 and 64 GB combination, then that is something, a real optimization you have to showcase to your customer, right? Tell them that, okay, you can start with very less capacity, maybe 12 virtual CPU or 32 GB RAM, because your load is absolutely okay, or those combination is absolutely okay for your load, because you are not consuming your 100% CPU and RAM, you understand? So then that point I when you provide a sizing, or you have to provide a kind of commercial with your customer, then that is something you have to tell that, okay, you really don't need that much of space, that much of server. So that would be the huge savings they can have, number one. Number two, the same logic you can apply for their storage. You rightly mentioned somebody, maybe they have 5 TB of storage on their NAS storage or SAN storage for their on-premise environment. But at cloud, but maybe in their on-premise environment, they are using only 50% or 30% of their entire SAN storage. So they don't need that much of storage. So let's start with only whatever the amount they need. You understand the calculation? So maybe you can go ahead with this 1 TB or 1 TB, some sort of storage, and with definitely hot and cold storage archive, as somebody mentioned. And even for the databases, the same thing, that maybe they don't need that much of database space, right? Database servers, database IOPS, database storage, right? So this is something called pre-migrations assessment. Okay, and you have to guide your customer and show them a realistic picture, because sometimes what happens, the documentation is absolutely fine, the theory is absolutely fine, but if you can tell them that is the ultimate solutions or ultimate sizing they have to go by, then they will impress, they will take your suggestion, and then your cost of the cloud is much more lesser than your on-premise environment. Do you understand, guys, the logic?
Yep. Yes.
Is very important, and in many cases, almost all of the cases so far in my career, that is the main problem. Customer says, okay, आपका cost बहुत ज़्यादा है, so your cost is very high, or it would be over my budget, it is more than my on-premise environment, blah blah blah. But that is the approach you have to always ask their customer, their technical team, their IT manager, their system administrator, whoever there. Just ask them to provide you 30 days or last month, last 30 days utilizations report. That is number one. So I had the Excel sheet, but I think the way we explained, I think you now understand what do I exactly mean. Because sometimes your customer will share server 1, server 2, server 3, server 4, server 5, and that much of CPU RAM storage, CPU RAM storage. But at the the additional column you have to add, like what is the utilization of your CPU, RAM, and storage and IOPS. Then that would be give you a right picture for optimization. I'll show you how to do that. Even in AWS, you can see I'm in the console, right? In the AWS Migration Hub, there's a nice tool called EC2 Instance Recommendations, right? I mean, it will give you some of the understanding. So if you click EC2 Instance Recommendations, there are a couple of options. You can see there are option called View Discovery Tools, right? Click on that. And there are different other discovery tools. So these are the tools for different purposes. One may be so you need to install agents. So maybe your customer, they will not allow you to install this agent for their productions. It happens, right? I mean, they don't know you. Maybe this is a first time introduction. So how can they believe that your agents are, no, it's a kind of okay, because the productions environment is super critical, right? So in most of the cases, they will not allow to install the agent, etc. But there's another option which is called import template. It is a kind of Excel or spreadsheet kind of thing. So if I just click import, first you can download a import template. So if you just download the import template, it will look like something this. I mean, if I just open that, you'll see there's a kind of template. So you may also share this template with your customer and ask them to fill it up in such a way, like, maybe not in full details, but at least CPU, RAM, so that is something the utilization. So let's say they have to fill it up. This one, let's say their current utilization is 52, something like that, right? It's a very long, template. But ultimately, they don't need to fill up all of them. Maybe they can skip some of them. But important criteria is, CPU usage average. Whatever I try to mention, right? CPU usage per max. What is the maximum usage? What is the average? What is minimum? So if they'll fill it up, and if they'll share this Excel sheet with you over email or somewhere something else, then further what you have to do, that you need to upload this their template, their filled up template to Amazon S3, and automatically it will provision what exact EC2 instance type will work based on customer workload. Maybe then you need only maybe T3 series, who knows? Maybe you need only some of the lower version of EC2 instances. So then ultimately you can save a lot of money for customer. So this is a tool you can explore yourself. You can get a lot of YouTube videos. If you don't understand, probably I can also help you maybe in the next call, but that is something I explore, is very easy. Just go to, just download that, fill up with some of the sample data, upload it, and then click import. Then on the next screen, it will tell you, okay, what kind of, EC2 instances you might need for their work. Okay. Nice tool, this one, by the way. Okay, so that is something pre-assessment, pre-migration process for optimizations. And now let's talk about post-migration. Any questions, Vivek?
No.
Okay. So Toda, you raised your hand. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, Devuji, thanks for this explanation of the three part. Two more factors I would like to add, which
Please.
is not generally mentioned or comes into our mind. That is high-speed internet and the facilities, as well as power. So on-prem, we have to keep provision of the high-speed internet to maintain the network up and running, the networking devices, as well as some cooling facilities. So those are also very costly. If you just consider, we have to consider that as well. From that perspective, I would say we can add that as a factor, that this is also to be added.
Yeah,
If
this
we
is super
are,
important. This is super important. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, so that would be another pointers. I mean, to convince a customer, like, so there's a concept called TCO, right? In AWS or in any cloud, if you just type AWS TCO calculator, long back, I used to do that, but these days, my team, I mean, account manager team, they do that. So basically, this TCO, it's a kind of comparison, that it will show you, like, your customer, they have their own power, as Satya mentioned, that they have to incur that, right? Maybe their employees in the terms of, let's say, for on premises, you need to have a kind of different skills people, but in the cloud, different skills. Maybe also you need to, for on-premise environment, you need to really, spend a lot of money for security, like CCTV cameras, right? Physical tamper-proof, server room, right? Maybe security guard. There are a lot of expenses to manage the security, right? But in cloud, it is already secure, right? So there are a lot of, other areas as well, like, if you calculate this way, then cloud is always a better solution in terms of money. But yes, again, when you talk to your CTO, when you talk to IT folks, they don't, I mean, they understand this, but they would really want to see the real value of moving to cloud. So whatever we are discussing is super important, but on top of that, always go by that, this optimizations thing, like, but in the template one, I explained. Yeah, so that is something very important, guys. Super. So this is something pre-assessment migration or pre-migration optimizations. Thanks all for adding value. That's I need, actually. It is not a one-way discussions, always should be. It would be a kind of both way. Okay, so what happened? Let's say I'm the same customer. Let's say I have migrated to cloud because you convinced me. Okay, and my workload is running on cloud and everything fantastic. And now customer, they are ready to start a new greenfield implementation on AWS, further. So, it's not a migration, it's kind of greenfield. Okay, so something new they would like to build on top of AWS. But again, let's say they have already deployed the new environment. After some time, they need your help. They see that their cost is super high. They didn't expect that much of cost, right? And they don't know, where they can save money, because and now let's say it will come to you as a cloud consultant or DevOps guy or AWS architect, cloud architect. Tell me, what are the services, what are the tools, or what would the approach to help customer to show them, okay, these are the area you can save money after migration. Let's say it's a kind of ongoing workload. It's not a migration kind of already there on AWS. It's kind of post migration situation. So do you get my questions, what I'm trying to mention?
Yes.
Okay, think, I
Uh,
mean, not in a hurry, think slowly, calmly, like, what would be the tools and services or processes. It's very important, right? That will be your day-to-day job. I can see
correct,
that.
correct.
Yeah, because people, they don't know, they are not as expert as you, right? You are the cloud guru for them, right? And you need to really help them. What are the areas that you can save money for your customers, that we call the optimizations, post migrations.
What coming to my mind is like, when we are giving the pre-sessions to the customers,
Mhm.
so there only we have cut short the most of the based on the utilization sheet. Okay, most of the services we have cut short on that particular time.
Right, right.
So it will be totally depend again. Again, you have to have the utilization report from the running environment
Very good.
first to understand. Second thing,
How can
um,
you do that? Sorry, to before you get into the next step or next
okay,
area, or next point rather. So
okay.
what is the service in AWS that would help you to understand that, okay, that is their utilizations for the running workload even?
Okay, in that, in a billing dashboard, we have these sections called the cost optimization.
Okay, if I
There we can
go
with
up,
each and every services we can generate it. How
okay, you are
much
saying,
pricing they have.
you are
Billing
saying
dashboard.
billing dashboard. So I'm into billing dashboard.
Yeah.
Though I don't have much thing here, but let's say I'm here, and then what? Where I have to go?
Cost categories.
Cost categories. Okay, what is that?
There it is. After cost uses and report.
Here only. Okay, so
Yeah.
let me click on that cost categories. All right. You see, this
Uh,
a create cost category, something like that.
no. I think
Hmm.
Yeah, I think what he is mentioning.
cost and users report. Cost and
Yeah.
users report.
So
Cost and
Yes,
users report.
yeah,
absolutely.
so there are either day wise or month wise or
Mm,
service
correct.
wise billing or
Correct.
domain wise. So if we can represent them, now you are spending this much on this category of services, so that will be helpful for the customer to measure how much he is saving right now.
Here it is. Here it is. There it is in reservation. If you can go, you can see the utilization report.
Absolutely. So, so I just want to little correct, here in this point. I mean, yeah, there are a couple of services in AWS that would depict you the right, all of the metrics that we are talking about. So one is very important kind of recommendation sections, right? In the
Correct.
reservation or savings plan. So what,
Correct.
because Cost Explorer, it will give you how much they have already spent. Okay, they will not tell you how much you can save, right? It is something they are, running expenditure. Okay. But if you would like to see some of the savings scheme or some of the savings area, then definitely the first thing you have to come here, which is recommendation sections, maybe reservations or the savings plan. I don't have any, but here, if you are running a real AWS account, something real happening, then it would give you in these sections called recommendations, how money, how much dollar you can save going by some of the reservations. Because in most of the cases, what happened that customer, they run their environment as an on-demand mode, right?
Correct.
And probably you have already came across in your AWS Solutions Architect course training that there are different billing options like reservations, savings, and on demand, right? So
Correct. Correct.
yeah, so these reservations, it's always helpful for your savings, maybe 35% savings for the standard reservations, or there's a convertible reservations, there's a different recommendation, right? So the first thing that you see, that is there any recommendations here
Correct.
for their ongoing or running workload? Number one. Number two, customer, see, the recommendations is absolutely fantastic. You have to first tell them that is there, but from again, from experience, that we can say, maybe from the day one, you cannot recommend and you cannot go for the reserve instance model. Okay, why?
Correct.
Why?
Because at least to get the utilization report for your environment, you need a data. So
Absolutely.
based on 24 to 48 hours, minimum what they suggest is 24 hours, but at least for a better understanding, you should have a consider 1 week of data where you can have ups and downs on the real scenarios. So at least those reports will be useful for us to compare it. Whether it is in a 1 week of data, like in 24 hours, you might get a utilization high, but what about the next day? Might be the utilization will get less, might be the user will be using a less compared to the first day. So at least you should have a 1 week of a track where you can have the you can see that what is ups and downs are going to be changed on the real scenario. Based on that only you can suggest that part.
Absolutely bang on. So I would like to add or change something here. So 1 week, again, it's okay, but from AWS side, AWS recommends not 1 week. It can be 30 days. Okay, that would
Yeah,
be give
correct,
you a
correct.
solid understanding, like
Mm,
your usage pattern. Then that AWS, they call it, which is a steady state workload. That's the language, right? So the
yep,
30 days, you will get to know that that would be the steady state workload, and then you can decide, okay, that is the time from the next month onwards, you can go for the reserve instance mode, right?
yep.
This is very important, guys. So that's why it is not a basic understand discussion. This is very, level 300 discussion, but everybody should know after taking this AWS, right? Because that will be the real every single day you will face this kind of situations, right? So that's the number one. So these are recommendations, savings plan, or reservations. That's the thing. There's another tool, very useful tool. I don't know how many of you ever about that tool. The tool name is Compute Optimizer. Okay. So the Compute Optimizer will tell you also that whether your existing servers are over provisioned or under provisioned. Okay. I mean, if I just enable, then little bit money I have to spend, but also you need to do research at your AWS account. It will be very minor, few cents. So this Compute Optimizer will tell you also that would need at least 14 days of CloudWatch metric. that based on your pattern, let's say they have their servers running, right? Maybe application for the database, but it might so happen that their server, they actually don't need that much of CPU, RAM, IO or storage. You know, understand? So this tool will give you, okay, that would be a room for further optimization, because you maybe don't need M5 4x large, maybe you can have only M5 large. Okay, that is a very super important or useful tool. Even for my customer, I always recommend to enable compute optimizer if they would like to see their pattern of cost and they would like to save money. You will remember the tool name, which is compute optimizer. Okay, very nice tool. It will give you EBS optimizations. It will give you some of the EC2 optimizations, you know, and I think the Lambda, I need to check whether it's a Lambda is also there or not, but that would be two services. Third tool, which is important. So first was is definitely, you know, billing dashboard, Vivek and everybody, you know, you already explained from the reservation and savings recommendation. Second is compute optimization, and third would be the trusted advisor. Probably you know this term, trusted advisor. And trusted advisor, it has a 5 pillars. Okay, cost of performance, security, fault tolerance, and service levels. Here also you can see there's a section called cost optimizations. But the bad part of the trusted advisor is it is not free. Okay, for the cost optimizations, you have to enable at least business support plan. Okay, and then only this trusted or advisor, all of the options will get enabled. Okay, if you don't enable the AWS support plan, then you know, this cost optimization you cannot see. Okay, there is a little drawback here using trusted advisor. But if you are interested about to see the basic security loopholes, then you can see that, you know, whether the basic securities check are met or not. We'll discuss about security not now. Our focus is cost optimizations today. This is another area, another service. Now apart
But
from, yeah, sorry.
but in real world scenario, the customers are like thinking that whatever they can get it as much as cheaper, they are looking into it. So if they are thinking about like in my billing sections only, if I'm getting those options, so why I have to go for another kind of a tool where I have to invest money? So again, they will have a point on that.
So
Again, they will
that is
raise a
the,
concern.
so AWS, so that is the different story. There is a business, right? So there's a
Correct.
trade-off. You all know that, you know, different cloud, they have their different services trade-offs. So if you would
Correct.
like to achieve something X, then you have to go for Y, right? I mean, but
Correct.
you know, maybe this you know, compute optimizer is very, you know, very minimal, few cents, right? That I
Mhm.
told you. And this
Mhm.
billing dashboard, that billing one, it is free. The recommendation section also, right? But if
Correct.
you would like to achieve, let's say, would like to save $3,000 per month, which is huge, right? So yesterday only I was discussing with one of my customers. They would like to save money. So
Mhm.
I've seen that they can, you know, save $4,000 straight away going by this. But yes, for to achieve $4,000 saving, spending $10 in a month one time, it is not a big deal. Yeah, so that's something you need to, you know, make them
Okay.
understand.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Apart from that, there are different services. There are different ways. So let's say if somebody would like to have more insight about S3 storage, right? Let's say they have a lot of storage running on S3. So whatever I'm discussing, you know, very common services that we are aware about that as per AWS Solutions Architect Associate level. I'm not getting into the professional, you know, different services maybe, you know, but these are the very basic. Let's say S3. So all we use S3, right, for some of the cases, most of the cases
Correct.
rather. And now tell me, you know, let's say they have a lot of objects, 10 to 10,000, 100,000, you know, different objects running on S3. Okay, and it's a very common problem that customer, they would like to save money in the S3 as well, right? So what would be answer for that to save
We
this?
can go with the life cycle policies and we can identify. we
Super.
can identify the like unused objects, and we can make it like enable few life cycle policies, right?
Mm,
And we can use a few of the services like S3 Glacier, kind of things to reduce the cost as compared to standard S3.
right, right. So that is nice. I mean, yeah, so life cycle policy or intelligent tiering, right? That is a very interesting service. Probably you can also use, right? Intel S3 intelligence tiering is another service that, probably you can go and enable that, and it automatically, based on the pattern, it will push those particular objects to different standard, like let's say S3 infrequent one zone, maybe, sorry, infrequent access, you rightly said glacier maybe. Okay, so that would be also helpful, but your life cycle policy also makes a lot of sense to save cost. But here another very interesting service in S3 probably you can also explore, which is called storage lengths. Okay, so in AWS, we use these storage lengths options quite a lot for different customers. And the storage lengths, it will give you some of the pictorial representations about, how can you, what sort of storage objects you have. I don't have, okay, interesting. So if I go there, I need to, it's already there, but why it's not? You cannot use account root principal. Oh, okay. I need to go to IAM. So basically, probably you can see. So that's a very nice tool. You can see the different storages. Different. Your month on month storage consumptions, right? Which are the buckets would be huge storage there. So those kind of nice things you can see. Maybe you can create your dashboard, and let's say test. Maybe for that I can enable that, and then maybe let it be as default right now, and then click dashboard. So maybe it will take some time, and after that, who's joining right now? Okay, Danish. After that, you can see that I have created my own dashboard, which is not default one, but something different, something I am permission. But you can also test it out. It's very super important. In AWS, people they use, and storage lengths. So whatever you are discussing, whatever you are sharing is absolutely fine, guys. But on top of that, some of the things you will look into, you have to, and storage lengths is one of them. Okay, second questions from the optimizations like Lambda. So many times customers, or maybe in recent situation that I came across, that one of the customers, they have they have developed their application on different container microservices. They are using Lambda, Kubernetes, DynamoDB, all stuff, right? Super, not a problem. But the problem is they were saying that, okay, um, they are saying that we need a very high-end EC2 instances, and maybe there's a G5 8x large they are using. Okay, and probably you have seen using this compute optimizer, you have applied the reserve instances, everything is okay, but still this tool will tell you based on the usage pattern, but something hidden in most of the cases in the development area. What do I mean by this development area? Let's say they have the applications which is kind of buggy, or let's say their applications, the functions they are using, the methods they are using, the different different development framework they are using, sometimes it is not fully tuned. Okay, and if you use a very old framework, or if your application is not fine tuned, then what happens that this application needs a lot of resources like CPU and RAM. You understand? So in recent situation, I have seen that their Docker image, which is somewhere around 12 GB, which is kind of abnormal situations, because Docker image cannot be so big. unless and until you have a proper justification. So we have, did a kind of deep dive situation, kind of troubleshooting, and we found that they are developers, they are using a lot of unnecessary, frameworks. Probably they don't need that. Okay, they can reduce those and they can fine tune their their code, so that what happened, their overall compute, their resources, RAM and storage, IOPS, everything would be kind of stable. So you understand what I'm saying here? So this is very important, that sometimes you really need to work with their development team and try to make them understand that why this kind of application requires a lot of CPU and RAM. The same thing happens for the databases, right? So in my RDS bootcamp, sometime, I already, explained, sometime your SQL or SQL query is not fully tuned. Okay, maybe they have a lot of joins, maybe they are using a lot of predicates, they are using function as predicates, right? So these are the things. First, not only from the infrastructure perspective all the time, guys, you also need to check, is there any possibilities at the development code to fine tune, optimize? Then you can save a lot of money. Because even in the Lambda, I have seen many customer, their functions are not very well tuned. Okay, and you all know that Lambda, it has a certain limit, and after 15 minutes it will time out, right? So one of the customers, I still remember that they keep on saying that my Lambda cost is super high, and it is getting time out after 15 minutes. So then we did realize that, okay, their functions could have done in a better way, written a better way, then probably they could save Lambda memory, and then finally they brought down their overall optimization, overall cost. So always keep in mind that whenever you are the architect or engineer, DevOps consultant, whoever you are, then your role is not limited to infrastructure all the time. Sometimes you have to go beyond and just check, maybe at the database level, at the applications level, their query level, code level, and just tell them that you can look at those areas. You understand? So this is very important, and these are all of the real situations. All right, so that is something, another point I remember. Okay, so what else? Would you like to add anything, guys, from your side? That's absolutely fine. I mean, you think you can share, because today is the optimization day. So we'll look into these optimizations more. So we discussed trusted advisor, we discussed this compute optimizations, we discussed the application and development fine tuning. At the database, you can probably refer to my RDS bootcamp part 1. Very soon I am going to part 2 release. Then we'll have a more discussion on that. But right now, let me check in other services. Okay.
So I have
Yeah.
just one question.
Mhm.
When you digged into this Docker part, and when you find it out that the frame size are bigger, so is there any kind of a tool we are using it to just check all this, or it is like that how did you find it out? That is there any specific tool that you find it out for that?
It's a good question. So to answer your questions, maybe tool there, but mostly it's experience, Vivek. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean that's something like, I mean, if you don't know this also is fine. You can take somebody's help to look at that, but
Okay.
yeah, so basically, they use Docker Compose, and it is written in YAML, and YAML, it is pretty understandable language to read, and what you can see, there are a lot of same methods, and they are calling it out. Okay, and even their baseline image is very big. So what happened, for any Docker image, you have to set a baseline image, right? Most of you probably have heard about this term, right? And if your base image is very big, then
Mm-hmm.
automatically overall, image size will be big, right? These are 2 3 combinations you can see. And even from the database side, yes, there are tools. There are a lot of tools. That's a very nice tool that I can have, which is SQL. That was very nice tool that that tool will give you where optimization can be done. SQL. This tool I use sometime, like to optimize any query and all stuff. Um, it is not fully free, but you can use to some extent. Okay, there's a Reddit tool for SQL optimizations. There are Sentry is there, other tools. So those tools also you can use for the SQL optimizations as well. Cool. See, the main, that's the thing, right? The main problem, right? Being honest, customer, whenever they face any issue, it is in a panic mode, right? It's
Correct.
absolutely okay from the customer side that they need solutions right now. They don't need all of the English and theory,
Correct.
and they need some of the technical help. But those technicality, some of the technicality at least you should have to start the conversation, so that customer don't think that AWS would be very costly product, something like that. Okay, but this is something inside their system, so you have to just show them and navigate them where all of the areas that they have to look at. Okay, it's very important. So be technical. It would help.
Right.
Okay, so now let's get into a different topic, because optimizations, it will keep on having the optimization. There are it's a never-ending topic, but another very interesting optimization that you can do, probably I can see Danish also here, that I had a discussion with Danish maybe last year for the different discussion, like on the database license part. Okay, so many customers, they have license product, which is called database license, a commercial license, right? Like Oracle, SQL, Microsoft SQL. So these are the very, very costly database engines, right? And the same, if you want to use in cloud AWS, no problem, you can do that. But your role will be a kind of advisory to your customer, right? You have to help your customer. So you have to tell customer that, okay, you are using this Microsoft SQL server or Oracle server. These are the super expensive. Even if you go to SQL Enterprise or Oracle license, your license will be sometimes crores, right? So they actually can go by the open source stack, because the world is moving towards that only, right? So world is moving towards open source, right? Everywhere you can see the Docker, Kubernetes, PostgreSQL, MySQL, MariaDB. There are a lot of MongoDB. So world is moving towards open source stack, and open source doesn't mean that it's there is a insecure. Okay, it's a you can have a lot of security around that to make it secure. But if their application can be restructured or re-architected in that way, like their application can work on open source database like PostgreSQL or MySQL database, then it is a kind of, they can straight save codes, right? So I have seen in many situations, many customers, even every single day, almost every single day, I have to deal with this customer, like when they are using a heavy Microsoft SQL databases with the clusters, right? They have the cluster, always on cluster, and all of the 2-3 nodes, big machines, even the oracles. So initially your customer don't understand, they would definitely they would not accept your proposal, because they really don't need to change a whole lot of things at their application side, because overnight from one database to another database is not an easy task, right? From theory it is, but it is if they can spend if you can make them understand what is the benefit of going to open source, And from the scalability perspective also, then they will understand. Then you need to discuss with their application or productions team that okay, you can change your application structure so that it can go for open source databases. And then it would be maybe 3, 4, 6 months job they have to do that, but ultimately their future will be very good in terms of huge optimization set, right? You understand? So whenever you see the database license, the commercial license, your first tendency should be to make your customer aware that it is time to change your database from commercial to open source. Make sense? Yes, I mean, you understand? I mean, I tried.
Yep, yep. Because the license are too costly because the totally things are dependent on the license.
I can show
Because
you. I can show you, the rights, the exact situation. So if I go to AWS pricing calculator, right? And simply, if I just go and choose, let's say, a SQL, Microsoft SQL database uh, license with EC2, let's say Mumbai region for your any region, maybe, okay, it doesn't matter. So if you go to EC2 and I have a lot of other production use case, but I think we have engrossed in this optimization discussion, I think. So let's say let's say it would be Windows Server with SQL Server Enterprise, okay? Maybe customer, it has this kind of workload and they need one server. And let's say this their family would be, let's say, M5 4x large, for an example only, okay? M5 dot 4x large. So it is going to M5 4x large, and let's say they have on demand, for an example, not reserved instance as of now. I just want to show you the comparison, and maybe they have a 1 TB of storage. Okay, so you can see their cost is almost $5,600 per month. It is coming. Okay, these combinations, Windows and that one. So now if they have optimized, so they have modernized their applications to the open source stack. Okay, so now they are okay for the modernization from Windows to that one. So let's say they are okay for the Linux with some kind of database or PostgreSQL, for an example. And if I go for this same M5 4x large and on demand with 1 TB, if I go down and just choose 1 TB, see, it's a 5 times expensive. So now it's 1,006. Sorry, it's not 11. So even 683. My bad. So 1 TB, the same thing is only $600, $700, maybe 683, and that would be $5,500, right? So if there are 7 machines, 7 servers, 10 servers, now you can calculate on your own how much savings your customer can have. All right, so I think a lot of discussions on the optimization. There are many, but I will not, take your time for that because there are too many things. We'll take 3 minutes break and we'll come and we'll spend another 30 minutes and we'll get into different, areas. Maybe we can discuss Amazon recognitions, some of the use cases, or we can also discuss some of the things on the databases. Thank you. We'll come back in 3 minutes. All right. So I think most of the people, yeah, most of the people left. So probably we can we can spend another 5 minutes and then we can wrap up for today. I got the call from them. They have to join another sessions, maybe. That's why they left. Okay. Only
Yeah, sure.
one discussions that would like to make. Guys, please also work on the billing. Okay, billing is very important. There's a customer, very recent, um, uh, you know, they want to know, is there any mechanism in AWS that they will get a kind of notification, so alert that if their monthly billing, let's say, is more than $2,500. So can it be done in AWS? First questions to you.
Uh,
Answer no.
So
Okay.
automating the billing.
no,
No,
no, no,
my
no, no, not automate. It is saying that the customer is saying that the billing should not be crossed more than 2000. So she should get an intimation that it is getting the billing crossed by more than 2000.
Yes, yes,
So
we have that option, but I need to check once again. I need to go through. But yeah, that feature is there in AWS.
Yeah, answer is absolutely right. So that is something billing, a budget. Okay, you have to decide,
Uh,
you have to define in the billing. So if you go to the billing dashboard, then what you have to do,
yeah,
you have to set the budget alarm for
correct,
that.
correct.
And the very interestingly, Murugan, said something like automations, it is also can be done. So that means, let's say they are 2000, the billing is more than 2,500, and then you can do automation that if more than 2,500, all of the EC2s will turn off. That's something you can do with the kind of Lambda and the, and the event, right? The SNS notifications stuff, right? So that automation also you can do, so here, if you go and um, just go and check the budget. So I think I'm gonna change that AWS budget. And in the AWS budget, all you need to define your threshold, right? In the billing threshold is a budget section. So if you just go and create budgets, so you can have whole lot of templates. Let's say if you can monthly cost budget, and you have to define, okay, if my budget or monthly spend will cross $2,500, then you can set a kind of notifications also for that. This is the email recipients. You can see that the notification will go, and then further you can also do a kind of automation by using, as I said, this Lambda. Then all of the EC2 will get turned off. So it's a very kind of practical situation, practical use case, guys, for today. Then please go back and check and think about what are the use cases might be your customer, your existing company are facing, that you can, maybe you can use those services in AWS. And that's all for today from my side.
Yep. Thanks. Actually, and the concern is like
Yeah,
we are not in our organization. They're not using it. So that is a major concern. So the concern is like now what I'm saying in that opening in the market right now. They're not only for the cloud. They're looking for the DevOps as well. So they are looking for CI/CD pipeline or Kubernetes.
very important.
So
Yes.
yeah, very neat. So that we'll plan to learn. So these things because basics is that we have to understand the cloud concept. If you're aware about the cloud concept, then we can go for those DevOps, which will be a little bit, um, you can say, higher version. So where we can have the all these things will coming into the picture, the container and Kubernetes. So where we can have uh, we need to get more understanding on that part. So because most of the companies are focusing on DevOps, so that is a major things now. Now they are only not looking only for the cloud, but they're looking for DevOps as well.
Yeah,
Cloud
so
with DevOps.
so what I would suggest for both of you, maybe Vivek and Murugan, then you should take DevOps definitely, because that is something new normal these days, right?
Correct.
Everybody
correct.
should
Yeah.
know, at least the technical folks, they should know basic DevOps. It's not a marketing discussion, but you may talk to Abhinav or egain team.
Mhm.
Probably they can help you on that. Okay.
Sure.
So
Okay.
very important and interesting and very good instructors we have right now. So the separate topics I will not discuss here. But one thing
Sure.
is another important, like if your company, let's say you don't have the cloud opportunity in your company, what you
Mhm.
can do, the same thing happened 7 years back to me. Then my existing organization, that point of time, they don't understand cloud, they don't want to discuss about cloud. Okay. But
Mhm.
what I did personally, just hear me out, that I just think I just replicated or like replaced my existing non-cloud infrastructure with cloud in my mind. So let's say they are using some of the servers, some of the developer machines. They are using that point of time some kind of typical development environment, right? What
Mhm.
would be if you can replace the same infrastructure in cloud? How can it be? Okay, right? So just do
Okay.
in the paper. Okay, just replace and create an architecture diagram. Let's say you have this kind of environment. If it would be on the cloud, how those
Mhm.
environment would look like? You understand? Then it
Correct.
would give you a lot of understanding. It would be clear, right? Every
Okay.
company, you will not get this opportunity. But if you can think in your mind, then you're almost 50% done, from my experience. That's something you can
Okay.
adapt.
Okay.
All right,
Sure.
folks, thank you so much for your time and have a nice weekend.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.